నమో నమః. అందరికీ నమస్కారములు. Today is a good day. We are going to start with a new topic from Subramanian garu, Hindu philosophy. So let us welcome him. I will introduce him briefly after Prarthana. Aditi.
शुक्लांबरधरं विष्णुं शशिवर्णं चतुर्भुजं प्रसन्नवदनं ध्यायेत् सर्वविघ्नोपशान्तये। सरस्वती नमस्तुभ्यं वरदे कामरूपिणि विद्यारम्भं करिष्यामि सिद्धिर्भवतु मे सदा। हरि ओम श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः।
Okay,
धन्यवाद।
ధన్యవాదములు Aditi. It is my privilege to introduce Subramanian garu to all of you. I have posted his data in the group. So without taking too much of time, briefly I'll say Krishnamurti garu is an eminent scholar with significant accomplishments in his professional and personal life. He was born and brought up in a village in rural South India. After his BS degree at Usmania University, Hyderabad, he proceeded to obtain his master's and PhD degree at MIT Cambridge, USA. Then he has persuaded 4 decades of career in the industry focused on research, innovation, and new businesses development and entrepreneurship. Currently, he is the president of STIMS Institute, a knowledge integration company. So let us welcome him and request him to start the webinar, please.
Thank you, Dr. Babu, and good evening to everybody. It's good morning to me here in California. This presentation is prepared with lots of pictures and images so that it's easy for especially the youth to follow the concepts of Vedic philosophy. I'll share my presentation here with you now. And this is in 3 parts. We started the part 1 today. Let us start this presentation with a set of prayer songs. Om Gajananam Bhuta Ganati Sevitam Kapitta Jambu Palasara Bhakshitam Umasudam Soga Vinasakaranam Namami Vigneswara Padapankajam Om Saraswati Namastubhyam Varade Kamarupini Vidyarambam Karishyami Siddhir Bhavatu Me Sada Mangalam Kosalendraya Mahaniya Gunanvite Chakravarti Dhanujaya Sarvabhaumaya Mangalam Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nandagopa Kumaraya Govindaya Te Namo Namaha Pratasmarami Hridi Samsuratatvam Tatpu Satchit Sukham Paramaham Sagatim Turiyam Yat Swapna Jagara Sushuptamavaiti Nityam Tad Brahma Nishkamalamaham Nacha Bhuta Sangaha Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavat Padam Shankaram Lokashankaram Annapurne Sadhapurne Shankara Pranavallabe Jnana Vairagya Siddhyartham Bhiksham Dehi Cha Parvati Om Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahavidyam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu Ma Vidvishavahai Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om. Thank you, everyone. In this prayer song, we hear some very important phrases. I'll mention 2 phrases for you. One is Swami Sankaracharya says, I am that Brahma Nishkalamaham. I am that blemishless Brahman, not just the body and the mind and the intellect that I'm associated with, identified as individual. What does it really mean? Second will be, in his prayer to Annapurneswari, the goddess for food and all the blessings, he is seeking the blessings of Jnana Vairagya Siddhi, that is knowledge and the ability that comes with that to discriminate us from the rest of the nature, that leads to a higher plane of living called enlightened living. What is that enlightened living? These are the two questions we will try to answer through these 3 sessions. So please follow with me carefully as we go through these presentations. First of all, Vedic philosophy can be understood and learned from everywhere. There are so many sources. People, you know very well, there are Vedas, and at the end of the Vedas are Upanishad. Upanishad means that which stands next to. That which stands next to the Vedas and all its scriptures and methods of worship, prayer, and so on and so forth, is the philosophic summary called Upanishad. Most of the Upanishads are a conversation between a learned person and a person who is very eager to learn. That is between a student and a teacher. We also see, similarly, Vedic philosophy imbibed into the various epics like Ramayana and Mahabharata. And within Mahabharata is a conversation. It is called Bhagavad Gita. We'll talk about it a little bit soon. But Bhagavad Gita itself contains 700 verses and it's written in 18 chapters. Every chapter starts with the title Yoga. So it may be confusing for somebody to think, what is yoga, when there are 18 different chapters, each containing the name title Yoga. We will go into some of those things as we go through this presentation to find out the common singular meaning that we can use and practice in our daily life. We can also learn about Vedic philosophy in a much simplified way in a number of other texts, such as Swami Sankaracharya's Atma Bodha or Viveka Chudamani, or even songs like Telugu song to Annamacharya Kriti like Brahma Mukate is more than enough to understand the fundamentals of Vedic philosophy. There are also teachings of modern day saints like Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, Vivekananda, and the recent times Chinmayananda, and so many others from whom you can learn these basics of Vedic philosophy. So we will try to combine all of them together into some simple statements that are useful and that we can put to practice in our daily life. So the very word Gita stands for a conversation between a student who is eager to learn and the teacher with answers. Very often it is described that Arjuna was very despondent and wanted to know whether he should fight or not. That's one way to think of Arjuna, but he's a great warrior. He was not afraid of fighting, but before engaging any action, we should think and reflect what we are doing and why we are doing that. And that questions, you have to have a commitment to find the answers for that. And that was a commitment that Arjuna had. And as a result, he asked these questions, and Krishna, the Lord, can also be thought of as someone with a great amount of knowledge who is giving this information to him. It could also be thought of as someone who is within our own heart, within our own mind, within our own intellect. Through self-reflection, we can come to an understanding of the same answers. So you can think of Bhagavad Gita as purely a literary document with a theological and spiritual meaning behind it. You can also think of it as a Socratic process, a process that is used in all legal systems where you ask a question, find an answer that leads to more questions, leads to answers. Ultimately, you find the truth behind the subject matter you're studying. That process of inquiry is called Gita. Do you know there are more than 30 Gitas in our literature? One of them, the most famous one, is the Bhagavad Gita. So now let's go into some more details into this Bhagavad Gita and the Vedic philosophy. And what does it state? So we are all involved in activity one way or the other. So even those who say, I'm just sitting down and not doing anything, still their mind is active. So it is wrong to say that I'm not doing anything. The real question is, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? How am I supposed to do this? What is right? What is wrong? And why? The more one gets into a position of leadership, having to guide oneself in the proper way or guide others in the same direction, and all of us want to be leaders in some form or other. And in a democracy, every citizen is a leader in their own right. So we are all faced with these questions of what am I doing? Why am I doing? How am I doing this? So Bhagavad Gita states it's the nature of all things in the world to participate in action. Not a moment passes without activity of some sort or the other. So don't even think for a moment that you're idle. You may think you're idle because your mind thinks you're idle, but at the same time, your mind is also thinking that it's doing something. Your heart is pumping, your lungs are working, your blood circulation is happening, your assimilation is happening. Around you, the planets are moving, the earth is rotating. Along with the earth, you are rotating. So it is wrong to think that we are not doing anything. So Bhagavad Gita clearly makes it abundantly clear to us that it is the nature of all things in this world, in fact, in the universe, to participate in action. Not a moment passes without activity of some sort or the other. Bhagavad Gita also states one should understand what is the proper action for the moment. That is called the duty. What actions are wrong and should be avoided. There is also something between action and inaction. Inaction, since you're involved in action all the time, then what does inaction mean? Action by its very nature seems truly obscure and hence confusing. Even the wisest among the people are puzzled by these questions. Bhagavad Gita says, let me explain to you the answers to these questions. By learning this, you'll be liberated from the impact of your own actions. Now, we already said everyone participates in action. Then how do we participate in these actions? Bhagavad Gita and the Vedic philosophy says there are three connectors. One is knowledge, the other is bias, and the other is ignorance. Only these three connectors that all of us in the world get connected to our activities. And the ignorance is passive submission, not knowing what I'm doing, why I'm doing it, but I'm still doing it. For example, I go to school, but I don't know why I go to school, but I pick up my bag, go to school every morning, come back in the evening. I have no idea why I'm doing this. That will be ignorance. Bias. This will be passionate, driven by self-fulfilling needs and wants. They told me if I go to school, if I get good marks, I can pass the competitive exam. Hence, I go to some big school like IIT or BITS Pilani or Regional Engineering College, whatever. But I'm not going to school only to learn something, but instead I want to do something because I'm passionate. Or my parents compel me to do it and I have to do it. Or all my other friends are doing it, so I have to do it. It is a passion driven by fulfilling needs and wants that is bias. On the other hand, knowledge is an analytical, calm, and contemplative. Yes, I don't know why I'm going for sure, but I also know I have to go to school to get good marks so I can pass the competitive exam. But more than that, I'm going there to learn something. I'm going to learn the subject. I'm going to learn mathematics because that allows me to compute things and find the connection between different phenomena. Yeah, I'm going to learn physics and chemistry because that's how the whole world is operating. I want to know a little bit more about it. I want to learn language and biology, zoology, so many other fields because through that I become a better informed, better knowledgeable, analytical and person with greater knowledge which I can put to use in some form or the other. So you see, we get involved in any activities through these three things. These three connectors, and the result is called guna or rope. So how do I know what is the knowledge and how does one recognize knowledge? How does one manage and use the knowledge wisely? Because just because you have knowledge doesn't mean you are going to benefit from it unless you use it. Bhagavad Gita says, knowledge in its pure form adds illumination, leads to tranquility. It knows no ill effects, as it leads to happiness from properly engaging in our activities with which benefit all. So if you don't know what the knowledge is, you apply these basic principles. Is it leading to an understanding in a way that is beneficial to everybody, not just me? Then that you are gaining more and more knowledge related to that. For example, when you go to school, yes, you are going to get a degree and you're going to get high marks and whatever it is, but is it knowledge and understanding allowing me to do something about the phenomena around me so that I can use it to some fashion? I can help somebody to do something. For example, somebody is struggling to lift something, then I design a pulley system for them so that I can help them to lift it better. Or if something is not working well in the milk because the milk has become curdled, then I understand the chemistry behind it and hence I'm trying to avoid that by doing certain things. So you're able to understand the principles of whatever you have learned, and that is the true knowledge. Then what is bias? Bias is something that keeps changing all the time. It's very volatile. It is not, knowledge is much more stable, but bias is very unstable. For example, turbulent nature is rooted in bias. By the way, these pictures kind of show you how we react when I get angry, when I get upset, or when I'm happy, when I'm sorrow. All these dualities are the result of bias. It arises out of unbridled attachment with personal needs. Turbulence binds any person to lack of satisfaction and hence endless chain of activities. I'm going through this little fast, so if you've got questions, write it down or put it in the chat box so that we can come back and look at them at the end of our presentation. Ignorance. Ignorance is very unstable. While bias is changing all the time, knowledge is very stable, ignorance is very unstable. Look at this picture, for example. It is very natural for the fish to be inside the water and float and swim. But is it natural for a human being, a person wearing a business suit, being under the water? That is the state of ignorance. Inertial nature is indeed the outcome of ignorance, Bhagavad Gita says. By the way, 14.8 stands for chapter 14, verse 8. Ignorance attracts all persons through illusions. Ignorance stagnates the person through lack of direction. And hence, for example, I'm trying to prepare for an exam, but I'm not preparing. I'm not doing anything. I'm just sitting in a sofa or in a corner, not moping around, not doing what I'm doing. Because I don't know what I'm supposed to do, how I'm supposed to prepare for the exam. That will be dominance, that will be ignorance. On the other hand, I want to prepare for the exam, but I want to get prepared tomorrow, even though a week is left, because I want to do it fast. I want to put it aside so I can go and play cricket or whatever else I want to do. That will be bias. I have a good plan. A week is there. I want to put things in an order. I want to put in the right way. I'll do 3 previsions. First time in 2 days, second time in another 2 days, third time in the last day before the exam. So I'll be well prepared. So I've got a good game plan for how to study. That will be knowledge. So you can see every one of those things, knowledge, bias, and ignorance, have consequences in all the things that we do. So Bhagavad Gita also says, tranquility is affiliated with happiness and contentment. Its happiness and contentment comes not because of something else, but because we have a good understanding of what we are doing and why we are doing it and how to go about it. Turbulence, on the other hand, is linked with the endless chain of other activities, needs, and wants. Inertia shrouds knowledge and leads to lack of direction. Bhagavad Gita also says, all our experiences are the outcome of the dominance of one guna over the other two. Now, it's very important to think of this. I'm talking about all this knowledge, bias, and ignorance. You cannot judge what is the knowledge, bias, and ignorance of someone else, but you can judge for yourself individually what is the knowledge, bias, and ignorance within you and how it makes you do things in a way you want to do it. Hence, we will talk a lot about self-control in the end of this session and probably more in the next session and the session after. So the entire process of yoga, self-reflection, and understanding the knowledge, bias, and ignorance is not to be taught, to be told to someone else to do practice, but it's for ourselves to practice anytime and all the time. Are you all clear with me at this point?
Yes, Mahodaya.
Excellent. Thank you. Now, if you then think about body, mind, and intellect as the human physical being, the Bhuta Sangha, we are driven by this because we are enabled with the mind. The human mind is the most developed mind. Yesterday, I was watching a TV show on whales. They have one of the biggest brains and they all developed brain. Monkeys also have well-developed mind, but our brain and our mind is far more developed. That's why we are the human species. But I already told you, we connect to our brain through the knowledge, bias, and ignorance, the signals coming through our body, mind, and intellect. Then who drives the mind? Who governs the mind? We'll call the enabler. We will talk about it in the next class. But let's spend a little bit more time on the connectors themselves in this class. So we already said there are three connectors: knowledge, bias, and ignorance. I went through in some detail with you what is knowledge, what is bias, and what is ignorance. So the next point is we relate to the world around us through the three ever-present connectors. And then all our experiences reflect the effect perceived through the dominance of the three connectors. Sattvam rajas tama iti trigunaha nibaddanti mahabaho dehe dehinam avyayam. That is, sattvam, rajas, tamas are the three connectors through which we are connected through our body to the inner person within us, the dehinam. The deham, dehinam, Prakriti, Purusha, all these things we can talk about a little bit later on in a future class. But understand that we are connected to the world around us, yes, through our body, mind, and intellect, but largely through our knowledge, bias, and ignorance. Then it says, Rajas tamasyabi bhuya sattvam bhavati bharata, rajas sattvam tamaschaiva, tamas sattvam rajas tata. That means when the bias and ignorance are overwhelmed, then knowledge becomes dominant and we have become sattvic. When knowledge and ignorance are overwhelmed by bias, we become turbulent. When knowledge and bias are overwhelmed by ignorance, then we become inertial. So we already said we are involved in all activities. In all activities, we are connected to three connectors, and three ever connectors are all present all the time. It's not that you're only knowledgeable without any trace of bias or ignorance. You're not always biased without any sense of knowledge or ignorance, nor are you ignorant without some trace of knowledge and bias. This itself is very important, because if somebody calls me an idiot, it doesn't matter to me, because Bhagavad Gita has already confirmed to me that I have a little bit of foolishness in me all the time. If somebody says, oh, you're a very agitated person, sure, there is some degree of agitation in me all the time. The real question is, which one is dominant? And am I able to manage the dominance of one over the other two? At this point, one question can be asked is, that means I should always try to be more knowledgeable. Is that correct? I leave this question with you, and if you note it down, if you want, I will answer it at the end of our presentation. Because after all, knowledge is the best thing. It leads to sattvika. Why should I not always try to be more knowledgeable, and I should seek to be knowledgeable, and that's it? I should try to avoid bias and ignorance. Is that right way to think? Let us talk about it during a question and answer. Now, to make a presentation here now, to come to this almost like the end of this presentation today, when knowledge is perceived in every aspect of the activity, one can recognize tranquility and its effects. Sarvat dvaresha dehesmin prakasham upajayate. That is, when do we know knowledge? When we say in all aspects of the activity, what you're saying, for example, when I say when you go to school because you want to learn. Yes, you also want to pass the exam. You also want to get good degrees. You also don't know for sure why you're learning certain subject like calculus at a given time. So there'll always be some ignorance. But you have pretty good understanding of why you're going there to learn, so that you can become a better, knowledgeable person, a good person in the society, and making progress in whatever goals you have. Your parents also see a slow and steady change in you. They're not seeing you wanting to go to school, not lethargic, lazy, but very disciplined. And that discipline in you promotes a certain degree of confidence in the parents. They want to get you ready to go to school at the right time, at the right place, with the right facilities, so on and so forth. By looking at how you are going to school, your brothers and sisters and your friends around you also get engaged, also get excited. And so you become almost like the beacon leading everyone else to go into higher level of performance. So that is called one can recognize tranquility and its effects everywhere. Also, at a time of crisis, tranquility transforms a person to a higher plane or higher level of performance. For example, when an exam comes, if you're tranquil and you have been practicing all the time, exam is just one more step in the way to complete the degree or to complete the course. Exam is not a hurdle. Exam is not a trap door set there to kind of block you in and not let you go through. So you're joyful about the exam rather than agitated and anxious about the exams. Just to give some practical examples. On the other hand, when bias prevails, one becomes turbulent, drawn into desires of endless nature, intense needs and wants. This leads to unrelenting chain of activities, unease, vanity, greed, and anger. At a time of crisis, turbulence leads a person to a chain of activities through a sequence of unfulfilled wants and needs. For example, again taking the same example of the exam, if you're turbulent in nature, you try to think, you thought you prepared for everything, but you left out 2 or 3 chapters because you thought you can get by anyway, because you're the smartest in the class that you can get by skipping 2 or 3 chapters. And the questions show up only on those 2 chapters. Because of your vanity, you now don't know how to answer those questions. Now you're angry. Now you're getting angry not at yourself, but somebody else who told you that you can skip those 2 chapters. So you see, it keeps on building anxiety, agitation within us just because of our own needs and wants. On the other hand, inertia leads to prevails, leads to inertial behavior. The result is darkness, lack of direction, or sense of purpose. At a time of crisis, inertia shouts a person with ignorance and hence grief, dejection, lack of any sense of purpose. Again, taking the exam as an example, you did prepare for the exam, you were procrastinating because you didn't know what to do, you didn't know why you were studying the subject, and you did not go out and ask somebody why I am reading this. You didn't have the courage to do that. Now in the exam, it's a crisis. Everybody else around you is writing vigorously, they're answering the exam. But you are looking at them, but you don't know why, what they are doing. How come they are able to write so much, not me? So all these things makes you feel more concerned about who you are and your own self-worth, and you begin to get depressed and anxious and agitated. This agitation through ignorance is different from the agitation that you get when you get through bias, or even agitation that you may get when you are tranquil. We'll talk about these different kinds at some other time. Okay, so you understand what is tranquility, what is turbulence, what is inertial. And these are the only 3 ways in which any activity can be analyzed. Doesn't matter what it is, whether you're a young person, whether you're a grown-up person, whether you're a manager, whether you're a professional, or whether you're a scholar, or whether you're an old man like me, or at any stage of the game, these are the only 3 ways in which we get connected. And these behind them are the 3 called knowledge, bias, and ignorance. So I'm almost at the end of my presentation for today. So let me just go through a few examples with you. I've also published a book here. Maybe I can ask one student within the class to read this. Can any one student be a volunteer to read the few takeaways from this book? Probably you need to unmute yourself, or if it's not practical, I will read it.
We'll ask the student to read. One student should volunteer
Yes.
to read. Yeah, Aditi, go ahead.
Few takeaways from this book are thoughts reflect the connectors, knowledge, bias, and ignorance. Learn to manage your connectors. Live in the moment. Do not ruminate on the past or be apprehensive about the future. Develop self-discipline, positive attitude, daily routines. Learn to look at the glass half full. Learn to smell the roses. Be aware, happiness can be tranquil, turbulent, or and delusion. Comprehension outlook on object what, subject who, means, tools, circumstances, context, and laws of nature, divine influence.
Excellent. Thank you. So you see that the important thing here is what and who are very important. Because when I say everything is involved with Rajasam, Tamasam, and Satvikam, behind that is knowledge, bias, and ignorance, then you can ask me, Dr. Subbu, are you telling me that everything I do, I have to keep on thinking about knowledge, bias, and ignorance, tranquility, turbulence, inertia? The answer is no. Because if you think of your own life, you walked from one place to another, you did a two-wheeler and went from one place to another, or you went in a car from one place to another. How many cars or how many other vehicles or how many people on the way you remember? Hardly anybody. You're only focused on going from point A to point B, and you did that. In that, there may be occasionally one or two events that will come to you that you have to question. Same is with life. It's not that we are concerned with the things to do and worrying about them. What am I doing? How am I doing all the time? You have to pick and choose the few that really matter to you. Once you do that, then you can begin to understand and analyze how to go about it. So to give us an example, let us use these on the bullet point on the left-hand side. I wish I was in front of you so I can ask you more interactively. But let us take out food habits. These are few things we want to look at for looking at Rajasam, Tamasam, and Satvikam. By the way, all these things are given as examples within Bhagavad Gita. So I'm just using them and in some order. Food habits. So we want to eat food. What will be Satvik way of eating food? Can anybody tell me?
Eating healthy food and eating it on time and when needed,
Exactly.
in the
Brilliant.
right quantity and in the right
Brilliant.
atmosphere.
Perfect, perfect, brilliant. So you see, you've written already Bhagavad Gita one verse yourself. In other words, having the right food at the right quantity that is nutrient, properly prepared, that will be sattvic. Okay, what will be rajasic or turbulent nature of food habit? Anybody?
Eating very spicy food, eating
Yes,
by killing,
yes,
and eating in a turbulent atmosphere. Like you
yes.
cook in a turbulent mood when you're not feeling good about cooking, and you serve it also with the same turbulence. So the person eating is possibly getting all the negative feelings and the
Exactly.
effects of what you do. So probably when cooking, it's very important that the mother is feeling good, thinking good, and doing it that way, so that what she serves becomes food for the person. I don't know. There's a very one thing which touched me a lot when somebody was explaining Saundarya Lahari. She was telling when Parvati fed her children through her milk, she fed them Shraddha and Bhakti and Vinaya and Siddhi, everything. She gave it to her children through her milk. So it's very important. What you feed is what you become. Food is what you become, I think, in whatever
Excellent.
form, thought or
Excellent.
physical food.
So you see, we know the difference between sattvic way of eating food and rajasic way of consuming food or serving food and so forth. Now, what is tamasic or ignorant way of eating food?
Tamasic, there's like certain fruit, like food, like tomato and potato and all, which is supposed to be tamasic in nature. Like it's supposed to be more like neutral in nature itself. But I guess also, like when we binge eat and all that, could that also be considered as a tamasic way of eating food?
That's one way to put it. Another way to put it will be because see sometimes it's almost like any copying machine becomes identified as Xerox machine. Similarly, some material objects can identify and become tamasic, rajasic, and sattvic. But we have to go one step beyond that to think about what makes them tamasic, rajasic, and sattvic. Because that's where our discriminating ability comes in. For example, any food may be okay if it's consumed in the right quantity, in the right purpose, in the right way. But on the other hand, if I'm eating stale food, for example, the food has picked up some fungus, but I don't care. I am in a hurry. I just want to eat something and go. So I eat that fungus-driven food that which is not good or healthy for me. That will be ignorant, right? Isn't it? So eating food that is not good for our health or consuming objects, why don't we want to take some of the hallucinogens and things like that? It is because it is ignorant, because it provides. So simply accepting that somebody else don't do it, you have to think it is not good because it's not good for our health and it's not good for our brain, and hence we don't take it. So not understanding and taking it will be delusion. That will be ignorant. So you see, eating food in the proper way, right quantity, right kind of food in the right place, served the proper way will be sattvic. Eating because I like it, even though I'm diabetic, I eat more sugar-related thing because I want to eat more sugar, sweet, or or hot, spicy food because I like it, even though it's not good for me. Little bit of spicy food is okay, but taking lots and lots of spicy food simply because I want it, my passion, my desire is not satisfied, that will be rajasic. Similarly, taking food that's not good for our health, good for our body, and bad in nature because of the way it is prepared or the way it is exists, that will be tamasic food habit. We already talked a lot about learning any subject. We also talked about preparation for exam. Let us talk one more and then complete our presentation today. This will be respect for others. What will be sattvic way of showing respect to others? Because we say Ati Devo Bhava, Acharya Devo Bhava, Mata Devo Bhava, Pitur Devo Bhava. What will be the proper way of showing respect? Anyone?
Yeah, be humble in words.
Yes.
Respectful, listening to them, not just hearing them, but listening to them,
Okay.
and probably emulating them wherever you find it to be good.
Yes.
Trying to give your children their past, like the grandparents, teaching them to be respectful, not just to the family which is just close by, but to the other members too, like the
Yeah, but let's keep it
extended
more
family.
generic. I mean, that is true. But generally, you want to be respect for others where we know why we are being respectful. We are respectful for them because of the knowledge, because of their responsibility through which they have shown some benefit to us, or responsibility that's expected of them. Any number of things through which they have earned the respect, and we acknowledge that respect and we show that respect. Now, will we always know whom to show respect because of all this knowledge and understanding? Probably not. That's why we go to scriptures, we observe other people, and we follow the traditions, so on and so forth. Showing respect to somebody simply because he's my boss. And if I don't show respect to him, he's going to punish me. That will be a rajasic respect. Then you can ask me, how do I show respect to someone who will punish me? Try to understand what are the good things in them that is worthy of respect and show respect to them through those things. For example, if a coach in a soccer team is very authoritarian, yeah, you have to respect him. But at the same time, respect him for his coaching skills, for the things that you learn from, and respond to that. Then he will appreciate it and perhaps even change his way of being authoritarian with respect to you. On the other hand, being ignorant, not knowing why I'm doing it, because everybody is doing respect, I'll also do respect. Tamil, they call it Kumbaloda Govinda. So that will be called tamasic respect. Okay, we'll stop here for today. We'll pick up other four bullet next class. So I'm also going to leave you with a set of homework questions. The answers are at the bottom of this slide. You can take a picture of the slide or Dr. Babu can share this with you in some fashion. Now, this is honor system where don't look at the bottom of the slide, just look at the top half and look at the questions and look at them during the course of the day or tomorrow. And then when we come back, we'll pick up from here. So thank you very much. And I'll stop here. Dhanyavada.
ధన్యవాదములండి. Now, anybody wants to ask any question?
One question. What is inaction? Because can there be inaction at all when there is only action? Can there be any moment of inaction at all?
Your question is brilliant, but you have to hold it till the next class.
Okay.
I will come back to it in the next class. So also encourage all your friends to come and find out what inaction is in our next class.
Right.
Very nice presentation, very nice deliverance actually. Presentation could be anybody can present probably, but the way you approached it was very beautiful, very practical, and I think understandable for even a child. Dhanyavad. Lot of effort
Thank you
has
very
gone
much.
into
Hari Om.
this.
You made my day. And I have a long day to go because it's only morning for me.
Yeah.
It's a nice day for you.
Please fill up the feedback form.
Good evening, sir. I am Vishwanath. I have one question.
Yes, sir.
All of us are born with a certain SRT, Sattvic, Rajasic, Tamasic, when we are born. This is what is my understanding. So over the lifetime period, we really want to make some effort and change this SRT pattern. So what is your take on that? That is our DNA and this Sattvic, Rajasic, Tamasic connected, or through effort we can become completely Sattvic?
I would say, honestly, I don't know the definitive answer to such questions because I'm limited in my own knowledge in those areas. But this is my take on this. That is, each of us are individuals, Bhuta Sangaha, because of where we are born, where we come from, so on and so forth. But at the same time, if you listen to the song by Brahma Mukate, it says the sun that shines on a king and the sun that shines on the pauper is one and the same.
Yes.
The earth on which the king or the rich man sleeps and the earth on which the poor man sleeps is the same. So like that, the nature by itself does not have any distinction between you, me, others, and everyone else. So the challenge is not what the starting point is, and this is why life is such a beautiful thing. In a race, the starting point for everybody is the same, and the end point for everybody is the same. Whereas in life, as you point out, for various reasons, the starting point may be different, but the end point will also be different. So, but the way we make the difference between the start point and the end point is how do you have self-control and how do you have an understanding of the knowledge, bias, and ignorance so that we are by nature more sattvic and less tamasic and less rajasic. I don't know if I answered your question.
Yeah, what I was trying to see is by effort we can alter this SRT, whatever we call. By effort, we should be able to move towards more Sattvic.
Exactly.
Can I add something?
That's called self-control.
Patel Garu, please.
So, so basically, every person is born with all the three things, Sattvic, Rajasic, Tamasic. And all the three are very, very essential till we die. The only thing is that how to use what at what time is the intelligence, and Bhagavad Gita teaches that. You see, now in the Mahabharata Yuddha, he has to be Rajasic. There he can't be Sattvic and say, no, I will not fight. He has to punish them. He has to punish the wicked things. Only thing is that it should not be for his selfish motive. That is where you use Rajasik, where you everything is done. And see the what do you call our Dhritarashtra was used more of Tamasic. Just he wanted power, he wanted this, he wanted my son, he wanted this thing. Whereas Vidura was more Sattvic, but he could not execute anything because he did not have the power. So, Vishwanath Garu, so everything is necessary.
I know. My question is, can Dhritarashtra become Vidura by effort?
No, definitely yes, he could become Vidura. He knows everything. But
He was just stubborn in his own way.
Yeah, this is the quality of a tamas. And tamas was dominating in him. He did not want to reduce his tamas qualities. He knew what he's doing. His putra moha is much more than anything, any rules and regulations.
This question
He could
actually
have become.
originated for me because about 20 years back, I was hearing one lady very famous for Bhagavad Gita, you may be knowing, Dr. Jaya Rao in Bombay.
Yeah.
She's, I mean, especially talented exponent in Bhagavad Gita. A lot of lectures are there on YouTube.
Yeah.
22 years back, when I was in real turbulent situation in personal life, I used to hear her program in Asta at 11 o'clock in the night. So she used to make one dialogue that human beings have got the capability of altering their SRT code, but not the DNA code. Because
Sir,
DNA is something is transmitted from the parents' lineage. Whereas SRT is something by effort you can change.
Yeah, SRT can be changed. And if you go one step ahead, I'll go one step ahead. You can also change your DNA combination provided you have proper sadhana. Sadhana, proper sadhana, you can change the DNA code also. It's a higher level.
Extraordinary
But SRT code is in our own hands. Whenever I'm getting angry, I know I'm getting angry. I need to think whether is it the correct time to get angry and hit him, or I can be away with that and
the
leave
choice
it.
is yours. If somebody shouts at you, you can shout back or you can get away from the situation.
Exactly. Subbu Rao Garu has explained.
I just
so
wanted
nicely.
to trigger that question through this question so that we all share some. Thank you.
Subramanian Garu has explained very nicely.
What you referred to was Purushartha, the effort that you can put in to change whatever, even if it is destiny. Now, Bhagavan can't do it probably, but we can do it through our
But that is a
Purushartha.
very big question. Another big question: whether destiny is powerful or
Purushartha is
Purushartha is
different.
powerful.
Purushartha is different, and let us.
Can we focus on today's presentation and
Thank you.
Then we'll come back to this maybe in another session.
Right.
Thank you, Subramanian Garu. Now, if anybody else has a question, we will take. Else, we'll close with chanting and also national anthem. Tomorrow again we will meet at the same time. So let us ask the Aditi to chant Prarthana.
Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah Sarve Santu Niramaya Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschid Dukkha Bhavet Om Shanti 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 Swasti. Dhanyavad.
Okay, Dhanyavadam. Now let us recite national anthem.
जनगणमन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंधु गुजरात मराठा द्राविड़ उत्कल बंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्छल जलधि तरंगा तव शुभ नामे जागे तब शुभ आशीष मांगे, गाहे तब जय गाथा। जन गण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता। जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे जय हिंद
Right.
जय हिंद।
Okay, ధన్యవాదాలు చిట్టిబాబు గారు అండ్ సుబ్రహ్మణ్యం గారు, అదితి